Toward the beginning of her book, Christianity After Religion, which was published in 2012, Diana Butler Bass shares part of a conversation she had with a seatmate on a plane who said to her, "I don't go to church anymore. I'm not mad at the church or anything. I appreciate what it gave me when I was young, but I just don't know where it fits anymore, and I drifted away. And my life is full without church. It seems kind of irrelevant. They don't care about my questions, and there's no real reason to go." When she went on to ask what the questions that mattered were, he continued by saying, doubt, life, making the world a better place. They seem interested in things that don't really matter. Church is disconnected from real life. And as her example points out, a church that wants to capture the attention of people in today's world can't just continue parroting answers to questions that were interesting to people in Asia Minor 2,000 years ago, or in 16th century Europe, or even in 1950s suburban U.S. neighborhoods. We need to be interested in things that really matter to people who are not already in our churches. We need to learn their questions and give them resources to support them in wrestling their way toward the answers that make sense. The gospel reading for today obscures the true value of Jesus' teaching in addressing this challenge because it doesn't include the question that prompts Jesus' answer. Now, it's not a particularly good question. In fact, we should notice the contrast between the question and Jesus' answer. Verse 22 reads, Judas, who was not Judas Iscariot, by the way, said to him, "Lord, how is it that you will reveal yourself to us and not to the world?" Here at Madison Street, we spend a good deal of time among the staff trying to rid ourselves of what we call insider language so that in our communications with both the congregation and the community, we're not using terms that make sense to us, the insiders, but wouldn't be understood by those outside of our congregation, or maybe even some on the inside. This question asked by the Judas who is not Judas Iscariot is, however, a quintessentially insider question. Jesus, how are we supposed to be different from the rest of the world? Or another way to think about it, Lord, how are you going to prove to us that we're going to be okay? Or maybe this question, God, tell us more about how special we are. And with this selfish and self-involved perspective in mind, consider again how Jesus responds. In verse 23, he says, "Those who love me will keep my word, and my Father will love them, and we will come to them and make our home with them. Whoever does not love me does not keep my words, and the word that you hear is not mine, but it is from the Father who sent me. I have said these things to you while I am still with you. But the Advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you." So in response to Judas's bid to know that Jesus was going to continue his relationship with the disciples, Jesus declares that those who know that connection will keep his word. In other words, they will obey his commands. They will do as he has taught. Jesus wants there to be no confusion, so he says again, "Whoever does not love me does not keep my words." Now, in our Christian tradition, we believe that the very existence of the church depends on its connection to Jesus. And here Jesus spells out what that connection is: to keep his words, to obey his commands. And he also goes on to say that the Advocate, or the Holy Spirit, will be the one who teaches and reminds us how to do this. Yet these days, I often find that we focus very little energy on being attentive to the Spirit's leading in the world. And maybe that's exactly the reason why the church has become irrelevant to so many people. The truth is, the church has always lived in the in-between times, waiting for Jesus' return. But far too often we have used that time to sit around staring off toward heaven, passively looking for Jesus. But if we want to be a church that attracts new generations, a church that inspires them to seek a relationship with Jesus in our midst, then we have to be a church that invites the Spirit to dwell in us as an affirmation of the life that is all around us. We need to care deeply about the questions, just like those that the troubled, disaffected Christian asked Diana Butler Bass on the plane. We need to acknowledge people's doubts about church teachings when it comes to human sexuality and marriage, about our connections to political and economic systems that create division and oppression. We need to be open to the messiness of life in our communities, where children suffer from crippling anxiety, where people still face violence at work and discrimination and even in the home, and where people struggle to find housing and work because our systems often place profit above human dignity. And finally, we need to prove that we are committed to making the world a better place by our actions, both as individuals and as communities of faith. May we be empowered by the Spirit to be vitally and compassionately connected to real life. And then we will surely be connected to the God who, for the love of the whole world, was revealed in Jesus.